The Lions will jump into the preseason Friday night, but before that, we're looking into what to expect for the upcoming season. We sit down with the host of the Not the Same Old Lions podcast in this week's Jimmy John Sports Corner. That conversation next. The Detroit Lions will jump back into preseason play on Friday night against the Atlanta Falcons. But before we get there, Sports Director Harrison Beebe helps us with a little Lions season preview. In this week's Jimmy John Sports Corner, he talks with Not the Same Old Lions podcast host and Traverse City resident Matthew Saltesiak about what to expect from the Honolulu Blue and Silver this year.
The following segment is sponsored by Jimmy John's of Traverse City.
What do you want to see in the second preseason game against Atlanta this Friday night?
I think what I want to see is what most fans want to see, which is Hendon Hooker playing quarterback. I want to see him start the game. He played the second half against the first game against the Chargers. He came in, the score was lopsided. And so I just want to see him start out, get in there with the highest ranked depth chart guys possible, and see if he can make some progress, because there's a lot of concern at that number 2 quarterback position.
What do you think is their biggest advantage now they bring into 2025?
I think the biggest advantage is the number of stars they have coming back on the offense. You've got Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams coming back in the top 2 receiver positions. You got Sam Laporta in year 3 as a tight end. And then you've got Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery along with Jared Goff. And all those guys are back, and you'd be hard-pressed to find another team with that many skill set position players in their prime or ascending.
What is the thing that you think is the biggest negative about this team entering this season that you hope to see some improvements?
I'm going to say that the 2 areas are the big question marks are the lines. Those lines are going to be very important. Obviously, I think we're all excited to see Aiden Hutchinson coming back. And so far in camp and everything, he has looked like he has returned to form, and he would even say he's better because he's got another year under his belt.
I'm not going to ask you for a playoff projection, but where do you project the regular season record to be at the beginning of January?
Green Bay, Minnesota, and Chicago also have a very difficult schedule. So does Washington and Philadelphia and Dallas. So there's a lot of good teams that are playing each other, really. We've talked about it before. We had you on one of my episodes, and I got to believe, I think 12 seems like a pretty good number. I think the odds from Vegas are 10.5, and I feel like 11 and 12 is very realistic, even though they have that tough of a schedule. Again, there's a lot of moving parts and some new parts, but I do think they have the talent and the coaching to be able to reach that number.